At first light, the southern African savanna seems almost motionless. The night has left a thin layer of cool air close to the ground, but it will not last. Soon the sun will harden the soil and force many animals into shade. Before that happens, a female honey badger is already moving. For days, much of her life has revolved around a hidden burrow beneath dense vegetation. Inside are two young cubs. Two is unusual for a honey badger in the Kalahari, where field research has shown that females generally invest heavily in very small litters. The young can remain dependent on their mother for roughly 12 to 16 months. An exceptionally long childhood for a carnivore of this size. That enormous investment changes everything. Every journey away from the burrow is necessary, but every journey also creates a window of vulnerability. The female disappears into the scrub in search of food. Her powerful forelimbs and long claws allow her to dig rapidly for prey hidden beneath the surface. Honey badgers survive not because they are reckless, but because they are extraordinarily adaptable foragers. For several minutes, nothing approaches the den. Then the silence breaks. A shape moves between the dry grasses. It is an African wild dog. Its mottled coat fragments its outline against the vegetation. The animal is built for movement. Long legs, a lean body, enormous ears, and the stamina that has made its species one of Africa's most efficient pursuit predators. Normally, this hunter is not alone. African wild dogs are highly social carnivores. They live in packs and often hunt through pursuit, coordination, and repeated opportunities created by multiple pack members. Research in woodland savannas has also shown that their hunting can be more flexible and opportunistic than the simple image of a perfectly synchronized pack chase suggests. But this individual has drifted away from the others, and now it stops. Something has reached its nose. The dog lowers its head and begins examining the ground. Fresh disturbances mark the soil. A narrow trail leads toward a dark opening beneath the vegetation. It smells of another carnivore. That alone should demand caution. Honey badgers occupy a strange position in the African predator community. They are small compared with lions, leopards, or hyenas, yet they possess strong jaws, formidable digging claws, and loose, tough skin. Their reputation for fearlessness is exaggerated in popular culture, but the anatomy behind their defensive abilities is very real. The wild dog circles the entrance, then it hears something. A faint movement beneath the ground, the dog freezes, agony. A soft sound from deep inside the tunnel. The cubs, for a predator, curiosity and hunger can be separated by only a few seconds. A vulnerable animal hidden underground may represent an opportunity, especially if the adult that created the den appears absent. The wild dog pushes its muzzle closer. One cub retreats deeper into the chamber. The second remains near the entrance. The dog scratches the earth once, then again. Dust spills down the tunnel. The opening begins to widen. What the animal cannot see is that the mother is already returning. She is still some distance away, moving through the scrub with the efficient gait of an animal that has repeated this route before. Honey badger mothers are known to move young between dens during early development, reducing dependence on a single refuge. Today, however, she has not yet moved them. The wild dog digs harder. The scent is stronger now. It can hear the cubs clearly. Then, behind it, dry grass bends. The dog stops. Slowly, it raises its head. Across the open ground stands the female honey badger. For several seconds, neither animal moves. The wild dog is larger, faster, and capable of inflicting serious injury. But the honey badger has something the dog does not. There are two lives beneath her feet that she has spent months protecting, and for them, retreat is no longer the safest option. The dog turns toward the burrow again. That is the mistake. And in the next few seconds, the quiet savanna will become the stage for a confrontation in which size alone will decide almost nothing. The female honey badger does not charge immediately. For a brief moment, she watches. That hesitation matters. Wild animals do not survive by attacking every threat they encounter. Even species famous for aggression constantly evaluate distance, size, escape routes, and the probability of injury. A serious wound in the wild can mean starvation days or weeks later. The African wild dog turns completely toward her. Its body is taller, its legs are longer. In open terrain, the difference in speed would be overwhelming. But this is not open terrain. Behind the honey badger lies thick vegetation. Behind the wild dog lies the entrance to the burrow. And underneath that entrance are two young animals that cannot escape on their own. The mother begins moving forward, slowly. Her body remains low to the ground, making her compact silhouette appear even broader. Her front claws dig into the dry soil with every step. The wild dog backs away from the entrance. Only a few meters, then it stops. This is the first important decision of the encounter. The predator has discovered potential prey, but that prey is now guarded by an adult equipped with unusually powerful defensive adaptations. Honey badgers belong to the mustelid family, the same broader group that includes weasels, martens, and otters. But their bodies are built for a different kind of existence. Their forelimbs are exceptionally strong, and their long claws allow them to excavate hard ground in search of rodents, reptiles, insects, and other buried food. Those same tools can become weapons when necessary, yet their most famous defense is their skin. It is thick and remarkably loose around much of the body. This does not make the animal invulnerable, as popular legends sometimes suggest, but it can make it difficult for an attacker to maintain a secure hold. A honey badger caught from behind may sometimes twist its body enough to turn toward its attacker. For a wild dog whose survival depends heavily on healthy legs and an efficient bite, that creates a dangerous calculation. The mother advances again. The dog moves sideways. Then something changes. From inside the burrow comes another sound. One of the cubs has moved toward the disturbed entrance. The dog's attention shifts instantly. It lowers its head. The mother reacts just as quickly. She rushes forward. The wild dog jumps backward. There is no dramatic collision. No prolonged fight. Instead, the first confrontation lasts only seconds. And scientifically, that may be far more realistic. Predators frequently avoid unnecessary combat. Killing prey is useful. Being injured while attempting to acquire a tiny meal is not, but hunger does not disappear because danger has appeared. The dog begins circling. The honey badger rotates with it, maintaining herself between the predator and the burrow. Now another remarkable aspect of honey badger biology becomes important. A female may invest more than a year in raising a single offspring. Compared with many small carnivores that produce larger litters, this is an unusually slow reproductive strategy. For this mother, the cubs beneath the ground represent months of energy, protection, and learning. Losing them would not simply mean losing food she had gathered. It could mean losing an entire reproductive cycle. That changes the acceptable level of risk. The wild dog wants a meal. The honey badger is defending something evolution has made extraordinarily valuable. For several minutes, they remain locked in this silent calculation. Then the dog begins investigating another possibility. Rather than confronting the mother directly, it moves around the side of the burrow. Its nose touches the soil. It has detected the underground chamber. If the entrance is guarded, perhaps another route can be opened. The dog begins scratching. The honey badger immediately moves toward it. Agon the predator retreats, but now the mother faces a serious problem. The burrow itself is compromised. The wild dog knows exactly where the cubs are. And honey badgers do not necessarily depend on a single permanent den. Mothers can move their young between shelters, reducing the danger of remaining in one exposed location. But relocating two dependent cubs while a predator waits nearby would be impossible. Then the wind changes. The wild dog suddenly lifts its enormous ears. Far across the savanna comes a faint sound, a high-pitched call, then another. The dog answers. The female honey badger freezes. The calls are not coming from another honey badger. They belong to African wild dogs. The solitary animal has not been abandoned. Its pack is somewhere nearby. The dog gives another call and stares toward the distant vegetation. For the first time, the situation becomes far more dangerous than a confrontation between two animals. Because the honey badger may be capable of discouraging one opportunistic predator, but African wild dogs evolved to operate as a group. And somewhere beyond the trees, several members of that group have just heard their companion respond. The first wild dog remains still, its enormous ears pointed toward the distant calls. Then the landscape begins to change. At first, the honey badger sees nothing. The savanna is a maze of dry grass, scattered shrubs, and patches of bare earth. But the wild dog sees movement. One shape appears between the bushes. Then another, and another. The pack is coming. For the female honey badger, this changes the entire equation. Against a single wild dog, her compact body, strong jaws, and defensive aggression may be enough to make an attack too costly. Against several, the danger increases dramatically. African wild dogs are among the most social large carnivores in Africa. Their success does not depend simply on individual strength. It depends on cooperation. A pack can pursue prey over distance, approach from different directions, and force an animal to respond to several threats almost simultaneously. But there is a problem. The honey badger is no longer standing in the open. She moves backward toward the burrow. This is not panic. It is positioning. Within seconds, the entrance becomes the center of the confrontation. The first wild dog approaches from the front. The mother lowers herself. A second dog moves around the side. The honey badger turns. A third remains farther back, watching. And suddenly, the pack's greatest advantage, its ability to surround prey, becomes difficult to use. The reason is simple: space. In open terrain, multiple predators can attack from different angles. At a narrow burrow entrance, only one or two animals can approach effectively at the same time. The geometry of the landscape has changed the balance of power. This is one of the most overlooked realities of animal conflict. Strength does not exist in isolation. Terrain matters. Distance matters. Excellent routes matter. Even the shape of a hole in the ground can determine whether an encounter becomes profitable or dangerous. The first wild dog comes closer. The honey badger surges forward. The dog immediately jumps back. Dust rises between them. There is no need for prolonged contact. The warning is clear. Another dog approaches from the opposite side. Agon, the mother, turns. Her entire strategy is now based on a single objective: keep every predator away from the entrance. The cubs remain underground. They cannot see what is happening above them, but they can feel it. Vibrations travel through the soil as paws strike the surface. Loose dirt falls from the ceiling of the chamber. One cub presses deeper into the tunnel. The other remains close to its sibling. Above ground, the wild dogs begin to test the defender. One steps forward, another follows. Then both withdraw. This behavior is not cowardice. For predators, hesitation can be a survival mechanism. A wild dog that suffers a deep wound to a leg or muzzle may lose its ability to hunt efficiently. Even if the injury is not immediately fatal, it could become costly later. And the reward here is uncertain. The pack does not know how many cubs are inside. It does not know how deep the tunnel extends. It does not even know whether removing the adult would be possible without serious injury. The honey badger, however, knows exactly what she is defending. That difference in information matters. Then one of the dogs makes a bold move. Instead of approaching the entrance, it begins digging into the softer soil beside the burrow. The mother immediately notices. She rushes toward it. The wild dog retreats. But another dog moves toward the entrance at the same moment. The honey badger spins around and charges back. For several seconds, the pack has discovered a strategy that could overwhelm her: distraction. One animal threatens the den from one direction, while another forces the mother to respond elsewhere. The female cannot guard every side indefinitely, and now the tension reaches its highest point. Two dogs begin circling. A third investigates the soil. The mother moves rapidly between them. Every decision costs energy. Every mistake could expose the tunnel. But then something unexpected happens. The pack begins losing interest. A distant group of antelope has appeared across the open ground. Several wild dogs raise their heads simultaneously. The calculation changes again. A tiny, heavily defended meal, hidden underground, now competes with something far more valuable. One wild dog begins moving toward the antelope. Another follows. The dog that originally discovered the burrow hesitates. For a few seconds, it looks back toward the entrance. Then it turns and follows the pack. The honey badger does not chase them. She remains completely still. Only after the last painted coat disappears into the grass does she approach the opening. But she has learned something important. The cubs survived the encounter. The den did not. Its location has been discovered. And in the wild, a refuge known to predators can no longer be trusted. The immediate battle may be over, but for the mother, the most dangerous part is about to begin. Because before those wild dogs return, or another predator follows their scent, she must somehow move two vulnerable cubs across exposed ground and find a new hiding place before darkness falls. For several minutes, the female honey badger does nothing. She listens. The wild dogs are gone, but their absence does not mean safety. Their scent remains around the burrow, their paw prints cross the disturbed soil, and the entrance is now wider than before. The hiding place has been discovered. In nature, a refuge is valuable only while predators do not know exactly where it is. The mother lowers her head into the tunnel. Both cubs are alive, but she cannot leave them here. Honey badger mothers are known to use multiple dens while raising their young. Moving a cub from one shelter to another can reduce the danger of parasites, disturbance, and predators repeatedly returning to a known location. Today, relocation is no longer optional. It is urgent. The female disappears underground. Moments later, she emerges carrying one cub carefully. The contrast is extraordinary. Only minutes earlier, the same jaws were part of a defensive display against a pack of predators. Now they must hold a fragile offspring without causing harm. This combination of strength and precision is common among mammalian mothers. Teeth that can tear food or defend against rivals can also become delicate tools for transporting young. The honey badger pauses at the entrance. She smells the air. Nothing, then she begins moving. Her destination is not random. During previous journeys through her territory, she has explored numerous holes, abandoned burrows, and natural cavities. Honey badgers are exceptional excavators and can also modify shelters created by other animals. Somewhere ahead lies another refuge, but reaching it requires crossing exposed ground. The mother moves quickly through the grass. She does not travel in a straight line. Instead, she uses bushes, uneven terrain, and patches of dense vegetation as cover whenever possible. The cub hangs beneath her head. Every few meters she stops, listens, continues, then from the distance comes a sound. The female freezes. For one terrifying moment, it seems the wild dogs may have returned. But the sound belongs to another animal. The danger has passed for now. She continues. Eventually she reaches an area where the ground rises slightly beneath the roots of a shrub. There is already a narrow opening there. The honey badger sets the cub down. Then she begins digging. Soil flies backward with astonishing speed. Her forelimbs work like compact shovels. Long claws cut into the earth while powerful shoulder muscles drive each movement. Within minutes, the opening becomes large enough. She pushes the cub inside. One is safe, but the mother cannot remain. The second cub is still alone in the compromised den. And now comes the most dangerous part of the entire story. She must go back. Every predator in the area could potentially follow the scent trail between the two shelters. The female turns and retraces her route. She moves faster this time. The old burrow soon appears ahead. Nothing is standing beside it. She enters immediately. The second cub is still there. Agon, she grips it gently and emerges. But something has changed. Fresh tracks cross the ground near the entrance, not wild dog tracks. Another scavenging carnivore has passed nearby. This is the reality of the African savanna. Danger rarely arrives in only one form. A den discovered by one predator can become vulnerable to others through scent, sound, or simple chance. The female leaves immediately. Now the sun is lower. Long shadows stretch across the ground. She follows the same route toward the new shelter, but carrying the second cub has another consequence. Her scent trail becomes stronger. The mother cannot erase it. She can only move. Then, halfway between the two dens, she suddenly stops. In the grass ahead, something moves. The female lowers the cub. Her body stiffens. For several seconds, there is only silence. A small antelope bursts from the vegetation and disappears across the plain. The honey badger remains still for another moment before retrieving her offspring. The danger was false. But her reaction reveals something important. The famous fearlessness of the honey badger is only half the story. An animal that survived by attacking everything would not survive for long. Its real strength is knowing when to confront, when to hide, and when to move. At last, the mother reaches the new den. She carries the second cub underground. For the first time since the wild dog discovered the original burrow, both young are concealed again. Night begins to settle over the savanna. The old den stands empty. The wild dogs could return and excavate every centimeter of it. They would find nothing. The mother has solved the immediate problem without winning a spectacular battle. But the story is not finished, because the confrontation reveals something far more surprising than the reputation of a famously tough animal. It reveals why predators sometimes abandon prey they could theoretically kill, and why, in the wild, survival often belongs not to the strongest animal, but to the one that makes itself too expensive to attack. By the time darkness settles across the savanna, the old burrow is silent. The entrance remains scarred by claws and paws. Loose soil lies scattered around it, carrying the scent of the confrontation that happened only hours earlier. But there are no cubs inside. Several hundred meters away, beneath another patch of dense vegetation, the female honey badger lies beside her young. For now, they are safe. And that simple outcome reveals something more interesting than any dramatic battle could. The honey badger survived not because it defeated a pack of African wild dogs. It survived because it changed the calculation. Predators constantly face an invisible equation. How much energy can be gained? How difficult will the prey be to capture? And perhaps most importantly, how great is the risk of injury? For an African wild dog, this calculation can mean the difference between survival and starvation. Wild dogs are extraordinary endurance hunters. Their bodies are designed for movement across large distances, and healthy legs are essential to their hunting strategy. A serious injury can therefore carry an enormous cost. The honey badger presents exactly that kind of uncertainty. It is smaller than a wild dog, but size tells only part of the story. Its powerful jaws can deliver painful bites. Its long foreclaws evolved primarily for digging, but they can also discourage an attacker at close range. And its thick, loose skin makes controlling the animal more difficult than its appearance suggests. None of these adaptations make the honey badger invincible. Lions, leopards, and other large predators can kill honey badgers under the right circumstances. But evolution does not require invincibility. It requires something much simpler. Make the attack expensive enough that the predator considers another option. That is precisely what happened here. When the pack arrived, the numerical advantage belonged to the wild dogs, but the potential reward was tiny. 2 small cubs hidden underground represented far less food than many of the ungulates the pack normally pursues. Meanwhile, reaching those cubs required approaching a narrow burrow, defended by an adult willing to stand its ground. Then antelope appeared in the distance. Suddenly the decision became easy. Why risk injury for an uncertain meal when a more profitable opportunity exists nearby? The dogs left. This is not failure, it is intelligent energy management. And the honey badger's behavior tells an equally important evolutionary story. Honey badger mothers invest an unusually long period in raising their offspring. A cub may remain associated with its mother for more than a year while learning where to forage, how to dig, and how to recognize danger. During that time, the mother does more than provide protection. She becomes a teacher. Young honey badgers may follow her through the landscape and observe as she searches beneath the soil, investigates potential food, and reacts to other animals. Survival is gradually learned. That makes each offspring incredibly valuable. A female that produces only a small number of young cannot easily replace months of parental investment. Her willingness to defend the burrow therefore has a biological explanation. It is not anger, it is not revenge, it is reproductive survival. And perhaps this is where the legendary reputation of the honey badger becomes misleading. People often describe this animal as fearless, but fearlessness alone would be a terrible survival strategy. The honey badger's true advantage may be something more sophisticated. It can be aggressive when aggression is necessary. It can retreat when retreat is wiser. It can excavate shelter within minutes. It can relocate vulnerable young when a hiding place becomes compromised. And it can turn a dangerous confrontation into a problem its opponent no longer wants to solve. As dawn approaches, the female eventually leaves the new burrow. She smells the air before moving into the open landscape. The cubs remain hidden beneath the earth. Their world is still dangerous. Wild dogs may pass nearby again. Leopards may patrol the same territory. Snakes, rival carnivores, drought and hunger will all shape their future. Nothing guarantees their survival, but they survived this night. And somewhere far across the savannah, the wild dog pack is already pursuing another opportunity. The two species may never encounter each other again. There was no final duel, no defeated villain, no victorious predator standing over an enemy, because nature is rarely interested in victories. It is interested in consequences. The wild dogs chose the safer meal. The honey badger protected its offspring. And two young animals remained alive because their mother possessed one of nature's most effective defensive strategies, not being impossible to attack, convincing a predator that attacking her simply wasn't worth the price. In the wild, survival is rarely about being the strongest. More often, it is about knowing when to fight, when to retreat, and how to protect what matters most. The honey badger mother did not defeat an entire pack through brute force. She survived through instinct, anatomy, strategy, and an extraordinary investment in her young. And that is what makes nature so fascinating. Behind every confrontation, there is a story shaped by evolution, risk, and survival. If you enjoyed this documentary, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments. Would you have expected a honey badger to stand its ground against African wild dogs? Until the next journey into the wild.